Hello fiber friends, welcome to a Jillian Eve tutorial. Today I am going to chain ply 3 bobbins of yarn. I had a total of 4, but I've already chain plied this one, so we'll get to take a look at that. The fiber that I'm chain plying is from the Hedgehog Fibers 12 Days of Spin from last December. This one is 12 days. Look how pretty this is. I'm gonna open this up so we can take a good look and see how the colors progress, what it all looks like. There it is. Ooh, I like this. I spun it all up during Vlogmas. It was 12 luxury blends. They have different colors and different blends. And so while I was spinning it, I thought, I'm not sure what these are all gonna look like, because it was like an advent box, right? So you open them up, you know, not all at once. So what I thought I would do is spin each one after the other until I filled up a bobbin, and I ended up with a total of 4 bobbins. And then I thought, I'm gonna chain ply this, because chain ply is a great technique to keep everything together. It's essentially a crochet chain. If you've ever made a crochet chain, right? You just make the loop and then loop through the loop and loop through the loop. So if you have a color, you're looping it back on itself, so it keeps the color together. If you have a fiber type, it loops it back, so it keeps that together. So within each bobbin, I have, wait, 3 or 4? 12 days of spin, 4 bobbins. There's 3 different spins on each bobbin. I can do math. So I thought it would be fun to maybe do a little bit of a time lapse on one of these so you can kind of see the motion of a chain ply, but then also to give you some close-up looks at how I do my chain ply and give you some troubleshooting advice. This is also a spinning frolic video, and so we are going to take a look at what some people have done from last year that they wanted to show off. And if you'd like to be in one of the upcoming spinning frolic videos, you are absolutely welcome to do that. What you would need to do for this one is chain ply something and then submit your picture before the deadline. The link and more details about that will be in the video description, so you can go check that out. And then next month we'll have another spinning frolic video, and I'll make a little montage, and I'll include whoever sends me a picture of your chain plied yarn. I'll put it in that upcoming video, and you'll get to see what everyone spun up. And I think that's a lot of fun to shine a spotlight on the community and all of your beautiful spins. So let's get right to it. Let's start chain plying something. I have a little bit of this one already started on my Ladybug spinning wheel. I do have these in my shop if you're interested in checking that out. When I pause, I like to take the loop of the chain and stick it on something that doesn't move on the wheel so that it's easy to find it when I sit down and get back to plying. And I can find my place to keep everything nice and even and organized. Imagine my finger is a crochet hook, and this is like the loop. So I'm just hooking from loop to loop. And then I am going to guide the twist into my loops. And that's basically all there is to chain plying. So let me back you up a little bit so you can kind of see all the motions that are going on here. I have my bobbin down here, and it is on a tensioned Lazy Kate, hardworking Kate. This is very helpful because if you yank it, you don't want it to just keep spinning and barf a whole bunch of your yarn off of there, especially once it's freshly spun. It'll have a lot of curlicues and it can make a real mess. So that way I don't have to worry about what's going on with my bobbin. It's just going to sit right down there, manage itself. So I like to kind of open up the loop and hook my next strand through the loop while I keep my forward hand pinched off so that the twist doesn't come up into the ply any sooner than I want it to. And that's kind of going to be a little bit of a troubleshooting tip. Often I'll see people where they'll have, let me see if I can mess it up on purpose. Here we go. So they'll have, you can see this is my loop, and they'll have their loop start to get twist in it before they get their other strand up to get twist in it. And what happens is, this is a pretty dramatic example, but similar things you can see could happen, where you have like the one strand spiraling around the two strands that have already twisted together, and it just kind of looks very sloppy. So the way to prevent that is don't let your loop twist on its own. So I'm going to take a little of that twist out of there. All right, see, now my loop is completely open, and I'm keeping all of my twist between my forward hand and my spinning wheel. And then I can slide my hand back when I have all three of my strands together and ready, just like that. Another question people often have is, what do they do to make the loop look less obvious, where it has the end of the loop and it kind of folds back over? So if you can see here, we've got our loop, and so because it's kind of folding back over itself, there can be a little bump in the yarn where, if you look, you can kind of see like, hey, there's a chain, there's something. I think it's better on this background here. So then people look at it and they're like, hey, I can see that there's a loop and something's weird right there. Like this one is a little loose, and so it kind of looks like it's doing that. You can see where the bump is a little bit from a distance. So something that helps with that is to give it a little extra twist, because that'll kind of hold it all together. And then when you're guiding the twist in from your forward hand, really make sure you slide it over that spot so that the twist, it folds that looped part down, and the twist really kind of grabs it and makes the whole thing much more cohesive. As you chain ply, you can make your loops as long or as short as you want them to be. And if I'm not concerned about keeping track of where my colors are, then I really just make the loops the size that it's comfortable for me to ply. So if reaching way down there every time is really uncomfortable, I'm not gonna make my loops that big. I'm just gonna make a nice arc with my hand and just swing it down comfortably. And that will determine the size of my loops. I think the thing that makes a lot of people intimidated about chain plying is that it has sort of a cat's cradle vibe going on over here with the other hand. But if you see, what I'm doing is just pulling the loop open, reaching down, and hooking the next loop up with my finger, and then holding that one open and hooking the next loop up. And the reason I am keeping that loop open so wide is just that it makes it easier to see what I'm doing, keep the twist out in front, and not feel tangled when I'm reaching down to pull up the other loop. When it's open like that, it slides through it kind of a little easier than if you're waiting until you get all the way up to the end of the loop and then trying to pull it through. It feels like there's a little more abrasion there because it's just, everything's getting a little more closed off. Another troubleshooting tip is that as your bobbin fills up, you might find that you need to increase your tension on your spinning wheel as you spin along, because the heavier the bobbin is, the stronger you need to put a brake on that, especially if you're using a flyer lead or what we call a Scotch tension system on your spinning wheel, which is what I'm using here. The heavier the bobbin, the stronger the tension to get the same feeling of a pull that you did when the bobbin was empty. So adjusting as you go is completely normal and to be expected. It started to twist up a little bit when I let go of it and paused to chat for a second. So I'm going to open my loop back up, untwist it, kind of, whoops. I can get in there. There we go. There's my loop. I'm going to open that back up, pull my next strand through, and then get my rhythm, my plying rhythm back. I will show you how I do the loop to make sure that the colors line up. This is the same method that I would use if I had like one skein with a lot of dramatic color changes and I wanted to keep all of the color together so that I didn't have any candy striping sections like within the loop. This is the same thing I would do to create a self-striping kind of skein. So I want to slide the loop back. I want this to be at the top of the loop. And I will just slide it. So now I have all purple here. And then when I start my next new loop over here, it's pulling up all yellow on this side. So I can keep going and I have a good clear contrast from one skein to the other because that's where my sort of lavender color is and that's where my yellow color is. Just put a little extra twist through there, especially if I know I'm going to be cutting it at that point. Having a little extra twist is nice because you know that it's going to unravel a little bit. And now I'm on to my next section of color. I don't have my audio on. I had to charge my mic, so I'll do my best to clean this up later, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to show you what happens when your yarn breaks while you're chain plying. So I just pinched it off. I felt it snap and I pinched it off and reached for the camera. So let me get this here so you can see exactly what's going on. Now, I don't want to lose any of the twist that I already have here. And I don't, let's see, want to lose my loop, and I need to find the other end of where it came apart. So I'm gonna get a little more of this on the wheel. There we go. Okay, now it looks like this is one end. I think it was looped and that's where it came apart. So these are my two ends here. So pretty much what I do when I lose an end like this is let's see, go this way. I find the two ends and I sort of try to reconstruct exactly like what part of everything it's in. Now this is just all the single from coming up off the bobbin. So I can kind of get that out of the way. And then here's the other end that would have been part of the loop. And what I'm gonna do, I've added twists to this one and I'm just holding it here so it doesn't unravel. And then I have this one, which is very loose at this point. And so I am going to add twist to this one, and I'm adding it in the original direction. So this is getting a little bit of Z twist. And the tricky thing when you've lost your loop is that you have to kind of rebuild your loop, right? So I am going to take the end and sort of overlap those two ends with each other and pinch them off so that they kind of overlap each other, and then pull this up so I'm getting my next loop, but I'm not gonna be real firm with it because I really just want to secure this section right here. So I am going to slide just a little bit, make sure it's coming together, and it looks good. There it is. So now that this is twisted, it's secure. That's where my join was, somewhere in there. And now I'm back to plying. Usually what happens is it breaks at the loop section when, like along here. So when you're pulling this and it puts friction here and it kind of tugs, usually something along there breaks. But no matter where, like, we'll just do that. No matter where you have a break, what you need to do ultimately is just undo the end until you can figure out where in the structure the break happened. And once you get backed up to where you've got your 3 strands, then get that stuff out of the way. So I'm just going to put that on the bobbin. So I have my working area over here, and then find those 2. And so if you don't want to do a splice like I did on that other spot, you can just tuck one end up in where the twist was already and just let that kind of come along. That works well, especially if you already have a loop kind of dangling and it wasn't the loop itself that broke. So there we go. And now for a little bit, I've got sort of a doubled up section there. You can see this is the other end. My other tail is right in there. I hope you can see. I promise it's in there. There it is. That's the other kind of broken end there. So I'll just make sure that I've got all of this kind of established. So I've got my other loop ready to go. And then as I come down here, I'm going to slide along so that everything gets nice and incorporated. So right here, this overlap right here, I do have technically 4 strands coming together, if you count that broken end, and that's okay. It's just a little section within here that there's a little bit of an overlap, but I mean, it's just a splice and you can't really see it. It doesn't, you know, if you splice it where it's enough of an overlap, it's not going to affect the strength of the yarn. everything will hold up in there just fine. So that's all there is to it. If you feel frustrated, then make it very simple for yourself. And if you have it break and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening, everything's annoying, I can't find my loop, you know, everything's terrible, don't panic, okay? What you can do, back up and find another loop, and then, whoops, take these two ends and just tie them together. If you're not confident about your overlapping skills, just tie it together. We have all, in the past, at some point, had a ball of yarn that had a knot in it, and we were like, arg, why are there so many knots in this yarn? Grr. And I mean, if I'm working with this and I get to this spot and I'm like, this is a mess, what the heck happened here? What was I doing? You know what? Cut, and just do it like a join. And it's not a big deal. You know, if you're using it for crochet or knit or whatever, I am gonna maybe bring the tail that way. You know, just treat it like a little knot, just like in a commercial ball of yarn. You know, maybe the project you're doing, the knot doesn't matter and it doesn't bother you. And then you can just keep on going right over it. And if it does bother you, just do it like it's a join, like you're just joining in the next ball of yarn when you run out or whatever. So don't panic if it breaks. If you have your yarn just like constantly falling apart, it's probably that you didn't have enough twist in the single. So what I would do then is loosen the tension on your hardworking Kate. Your bobbin Kate is probably what I'm going to start calling it, because I don't like saying lazy. Like, I'm not trying to shame a tool down there that's really working hard for me. I mean, poor Kate. So my bobbin Kate down there is tensioned, and if you have to tug too hard on your single, what that can do is cause the twist to move around. And if you have a slightly thicker section and you put tension, your twist might go to the thinner sections, and then that thick section might not have enough twist to hold together, and it can kind of slide apart. And so if that's happening, then you would just need to turn down the tension so that it doesn't pull so hard, or you don't have to pull so hard to get the yarn off the bobbin. Of course, then you have to watch out and make sure it's not just like spinning and spitting yarn everywhere all over the floor. But there's usually a happy middle ground you can find where it's not going to break your yarn and it's not going to barf the rest of your yarn all over the floor. Okay, this section, I wasn't too careful about the pink and the orange because it's still within the same ball of yarn or section of fibers. So I just kind of let it transition into the pink. I do remember spinning this one. It had a chunk of pink at the start and then it had the yellow throughout the rest of it. So I'm not worried. I'm letting it sort of shift like it's a gradient kind of, and just going on with it. If I have a longer section of color that I'm trying to control, I have in the past like cranked the tension way up so that it's very strong, and then I can pull back against it a little bit, and I'll get up and walk across the room and pull the loop all the way out so that I can make sure I see where everything is lining up. Let's take a look at our submissions for this spinning frolic. The theme for this one was show me the best of 25. What thing were you the most proud of from 2025? Let's take a look. my feet are tired. That was a lot of treadling, but I did manage to get all of my skeins chain plied and finished. So let's take a look at them. I would love some ideas about what kind of project I should do. I think there might be enough here for a sweater. I think a sweater could be fun, but I'm not sure which pattern because there's such different colors. The gauge of the yarn itself is about the same, regardless of the fiber specifically, but the color is interesting because I kept the colors together. If I knit with these, it's going to be a big block of one color slash fiber, then a block of the next color slash fiber. So even though these have three, they look a little bit intermixed, but they're not, because remember, each of the color chunks goes together. It's not alternating like a truly self-striping. But anyway, it's beautiful. So here it is. Let me back up and make sure you can see. There they are. So this one's almost kind of rainbow, but we have this skein that does, well, I mean, it's all in one skein, I think. So we've got this very orange one, and then we have this beautiful kind of a yellow green, and then we have this blue periwinkle kind of thing going on. We have, let's see, this one has, let's see, you can see it in there and dig it out. There we go. So this is more of like a blue and white together. This is sort of a peach color. This is a darker green, kind of a blue-green teal color. And then the next one we have, this one I think had more variegation within the skeins. So there is this darker, or within the chunks of fiber. And let's see. Yeah, so it's a little bit harder to tell with this one, but it's kind of got some blues and purples. It's kind of got some darker colors over here, and then it's kind of got some yellows and pinks here. Then we have this sort of gray over here, and then we've got this yellow and pink here, and then we have this very lilac-y lavender kind of purple over here. So this is the color story, you could say, and it's beautiful. I think they all go well together. I think they could all be, I think they could be in a sweater, and I think it would be lovely. I don't just want stripe, 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 so how should I mix that up? I am open to suggestions, and I can't wait to see what you all suggest in the comments. See you there! Happy spinning!